Greetings, Guardians. This is Olympus Alliance. And today we take a deeper dive into one of the most complete control heroes in the game right now. Tempus. A hero that was already powerful before Relics. But after this update, he feels transformed. More oppressive. More disruptive. More capable of completely controlling the rhythm of a fight from beginning to end. Because Tempus was never designed to be a simple damage dealer. His role has always been about momentum. Slowing enemies down, accelerating allies, extending debuffs, controlling timing and forcing the opponent into uncomfortable situations where they simply cannot execute their game plan correctly. And now, Relics have amplified every part of that identity. The addition of team-wide magic penetration gives his allies far more offensive pressure. The increased Withering area makes his debuffs affect fights much more consistently. Time Paradox now adds real damage pressure during his control windows. And at the highest relic level, Tempus retaliates automatically when enemies attempt to control him. That last mechanic alone completely changes interactions against many teams. Because now the heroes designed to stop Tempus can end up triggering his own control back onto themselves. And that makes him incredibly annoying to fight against. Especially for physical attackers. Especially for aggressive compositions. Especially for teams relying heavily on tempo and fast execution. There is a reason Tristan has become far less common recently. And Tempus is a huge part of that story. But now the big question becomes, where do we actually use him? Because Tempus is not a hero that fits only one style. He can function inside slow grinding control teams, explosive mage compositions, and even scaling sustain lines that completely dominate longer fights. So today, we are showcasing 3 very different Tempus teams that maximize different parts of his kit and show exactly why this hero is becoming one of the most important investments in the game right now. And we begin with a team that completely rejects the modern kill instantly philosophy dominating the meta. Astaroth, Xe'Sha, Aidan, Lian, and Tempus. This team is not about exploding into action immediately. It is about surviving the first wave, stabilizing, and then slowly taking complete control of the battlefield until the opponent can no longer recover. The Xe'Sha core already brings one of the strongest scaling interactions in the game through sacrifice mechanics. Xe'Sha converts health into terrifying amounts of magic attack while Aidan constantly manipulates sustain and survivability across the team. Now add Tempus into that equation, and things become even more oppressive. Time Paradox increases maximum health for allies while simultaneously slowing enemies and accelerating your own team. And that extra maximum health becomes extremely valuable because Xe'Sha converts it directly into even more offensive pressure through her own skills. So the longer the fight lasts, the stronger this team becomes. Then comes Lian. And Lian is the piece that transforms this line from strong into frustrating. Because she directly interferes with many of the most aggressive meta heroes in the game. Kayla, Peach, Polaris, Iris. All of them can suddenly lose momentum the moment Lian's control starts activating. Enchantments interrupt attacks, punish aggression and create breathing room for the rest of the team to stabilize. Meanwhile Tempus keeps extending debuffs, slowing enemies and manipulating tempo constantly. This team doesn't rush. It suffocates. And on defense, it becomes extremely difficult to break correctly because one mistake against this composition usually means losing momentum permanently. Now our second team goes in the completely opposite direction. Electra, Tempus, Soleil, Iris, and Polaris. This is not a slow control team. This is destruction. Pure offensive pressure layered with constant debuffs and battlefield lockdown. And Tempest sits right in the center of all of it. Because this composition works like a chain reaction. Soleil strips magic defense. Iris amplifies pressure through devastating damage. Electra constantly disrupts and weakens the enemy line. Tempus extends debuffs and amplifies allied magic penetration. And Polaris ensures enemies barely get the opportunity to respond at all. The amount of layered pressure here becomes overwhelming very quickly. Magic defense disappears. Debuffs stack endlessly. Control chains begin. And Iris suddenly starts deleting entire teams before they can stabilize. But what makes this composition truly terrifying is that it remains safe even after the initial burst window. Because Polaris and Tempus create a safety net through constant control. Enemies are slowed. Enemies are stunned. Enemies lose access to their own timing. And when that happens against a team with this much damage, the fight usually ends immediately. This might genuinely be one of the most explosive offensive teams currently available in the game. And Tempus is one of the main reasons it functions so smoothly. Now our final team shifts direction again and returns to a slower scaling approach. But with completely different heroes and a very different style of pressure. Mushy, Burner, Tempus, Somna, and Alvanna. This composition revolves around growth, momentum, and overwhelming sustain. Mushy absolutely loves the additional maximum health provided by Tempus and Burner because she needs time to become unstoppable. Early in fights she can sometimes feel vulnerable before her damage fully ramps up. But this team exists specifically to protect that growth period. Tempus slows enemies down while increasing allied tempo. Alvanna adds healing, defensive support and additional sustain. Burner reinforces survivability while amplifying the scaling potential of the composition. And once Mushy settles into the fight, things become very ugly for the opponent. Because Tempus' new relic interactions amplify her massively. The additional magic penetration from Chrono Field increases Mushy's damage output significantly. The enhanced Withering effect weakens the entire enemy line instead of isolated targets. Time Paradox constantly manipulates battlefield rhythm while damaging enemies trapped inside it. And then comes Somna. A hero that adds even more disruption, even more control and even more pressure through crushing support and defensive interference. So now the opponent is trapped fighting through layers of healing, slows, debuffs, control and scaling damage while Mushy slowly transforms into an unstoppable wrecking ball of mycelium. This team does not care about early panic. It cares about inevitability. And once it reaches full momentum, it becomes incredibly difficult to stop. So Guardians. These are three completely different Tempus compositions. But each one demonstrates the same core truth. Tempus is no longer simply a control hero. He is a battlefield manipulator. A momentum engine. A hero capable of transforming the pace, structure and pressure of an entire fight. He fits slow teams. He fits explosive teams. He fits scaling sustained teams. And now with relics enhancing every aspect of his identity. His value has risen dramatically. If you are building Tempus right now, you are investing into one of the most flexible and influential control heroes in the game. And honestly, this feels like only the beginning. Because the more players experiment with his relic interactions, the more combinations are going to appear around him. So Guardians, which Tempest team are you trying first? Have you already tested the relic upgrades on the battlefield? Let us know in the comments and feel free to share your own combinations as well, because this hero has massive potential and we are only starting to uncover it. Stay tuned, stay sharp. And as always, salute and friendship.